The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you, listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
They let us play with all our toys, they let us think that we're big boys, they let us make the louder noise, but women rule the world. They let us think we're Superman.
You can follow us on our website, SpacedoutRadio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you.
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
Dad, you gotta stop haunting the ghost. It's scaring them.
Alright, seriously, put down the pointy sticks.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
The password is...
Alright.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you.
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello, Toby. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye-bye.
Please take your seat on my row. We'll let the edge prepare for takeoff. Start. 2, 1. Boost ignition and lift off.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and it's great to have you along for the ride. on this Monday, November 27th, Tuesday, November 28th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. Hope you had a great day and night. We are live right here in the Great White North, on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, as we are here 7 nights a week. We welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us as well. We are also live on SpacedoutRadio.com, Spreaker, KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Like our music, get your horns up for Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy and Sons of Apollo. Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR. You can also follow us on social media, on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States. TalkStream Live, tune us in on TuneIn, download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Of course, our website is SpacedoutRadio.com. Now, we're going to be revamping our Patreon account at Patreon.com. But for as low as $1 a month, we'd love you to go there and become a patron of SOR as well. We have 2 chat rooms for you to participate in if you want to get your questions into the show for our guest. You can either have to be signed into Spreaker or onto Facebook in the SOR Space Travelers group. Or if you're on Twitter, just use the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. I will connect with you there as well. If you head to our website for $5 a month, you can become a member of the SOR Space Travelers Club. You can also shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Read up on the Encounter Online. We got some great news stories on there for you. You can check out my latest blog there as well. You can also fill out an SOR Sightlines report if you've had an experience you cannot explain and you'd like us to send it to people like our guest tonight, Butch Witkowski. Tim Doyle from UFO Seekers, Leslie Mitchell Clark's Contact TV, and so much more when it comes to videos on SpaceOutRadio.com. It's the final week of November, and being the final Monday of the month, here we are on the West Coast, and we always invite in Butch Witkowski from UFO Cop to come in and join us to talk about the world of cryptids. Butch's team researches both online and boots on the ground, looking for these anomalous creatures that are being reported by people who have extraordinary experiences. Experiences that are so beyond sci-fi that some are even afraid to head outdoors again. Mothman, bipedal canines, aliens, ghosts, it doesn't matter for Butch, a retired police officer in Pennsylvania, who tries to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to the investigation. It's a role he takes very seriously because the one thing he hates is a mystery that isn't solved. Butch, always good to have you back on Spaced Out Radio, my friend. This is our last time I'll talk to you before Christmas, so Merry Christmas to you and your family.
And same to you and yours, and good to be back on.
It's always exciting to have you on the show, my friend. And, you know, the one thing that Butch and I were talking about off the air just moments ago is how quickly these shows seem to go when he is on the air with us. So I'm pretty sure by the time we blink our eyes a few times, this show is going to be said and done and in the books, which sucks, but what do we do? That's just the way it has to go. So what have you been up to? What's new in the cryptid world around UFO Cop?
We just got the final 2016 report stats in for sightings. They were a little late this year, but what we do is we gather from about 7 different databases the amount of reports, and then we break them down into identified, unknowns, and hoaxes. And they do fluctuate from one to the other by a couple percent every year, and they have for many, many years. But for 2016, the report stats come out to 85% of the sightings, UFO sightings, were identified, 10% are unknown, and 5% were hoaxes. And like I said, that stays pretty much it doesn't really fluctuate a lot. In the 70s, late 70s, the hoaxes were way high. They were in that 15% range, but in the last few years, they've been between 5 and 7%. Other than that, reports keep coming in, so we keep moving.
When you look at the numbers And tonight I want to take a look at something that's been coming on the air here from a bunch of our listeners lately in regards to alien abduction. When you look at the numbers, even though they're your own, how much of them do you put, or how much strength do you put in those numbers?
I would say I would go with about 90%. They're pretty well documented, and they only do they don't do cases where it's just an information case only, or there's no relevant information, or it's just a word of mouth report where somebody calls it in and they're out of it, and you never hear from them again. But these are the ones where reports were actually taken and investigated, and that's how they arrive at these numbers. Again, they don't really change a whole lot. Just a few years back in the 70s and a few years in the 80s where hoaxes were really high. But when you look at the timestamp on those hoaxes, it's pretty much when CGI was coming out and, all the programs you could load into a computer to make their own UFOs. And but now that's pretty much solved. I mean, there's programs now that you can decipher a fake or a hoax photograph in a matter of pretty much minutes.
Well, if you could explain that for a little bit, because one of the things and one of the kicks I've been on recently in regards to the last week or so is I finally had enough in regards to fake news. Fake news being on my profile wall, being on Twitter. I'm just tired of it. And I figured, you know what? If somebody has the time to post fake news, they obviously don't have the time to figure out reality. And I just figured I don't want that on my profile. I don't want somebody to look at my profile if they're checking it out and say, wow, this guy has a lot of tags on there of fake news crap, and I don't want that. And so I've been eliminating people who send me chain mail on Messenger and things like that. How do you go about, when you talk to people, Butch, how do you go about deciphering whether someone's just trying to pull the wool over your eyes because they're hoping for 10, 15 minutes of fame, or they actually have a real account of what's going on?
Oh, the easiest way, the best way that I found, and it's been used many, many, many years by police officers, as far back as I can remember. You get the information, you get your basic information, go back 2 or 3, 4 days later and talk to the same person again and watch how it changes. All of a sudden, the cloudy sky is now clear. The time of day changes. The location changes. What they were doing changes. They pretty much give themselves away. If something happens and you see it, you don't forget it. Just like my very first sighting, I won't forget it. I can go through it verbatim and over and over a million times to the last sighting that I had. Same thing. But, when somebody comes out of the blue, you have a person that, especially in abductions, where we find abductions usually come from persons that are living alone. They've read every book on abduction since day one. And their cases that they relate to you are strikingly similar to more famous cases that have come out over the years. There's just so many ways, so many things, and then there's always that when it's a face-to-face, you just know. You just feel it, you know it, and you don't really have to be any super-duper investigator. Most people know when they're being lied to, and the fake stuff, that's going to be out there forever because, like you said, it's the 5 minutes of fame, or they got a book coming out, or they're going to be speaking at a conference for the first time, and they want their name out there. And I don't think that's ever going to stop. But when you're interviewing a witness, like I said, the best way to do it is get the basic information, talk to them. Face-to-face is always best, but sometimes you can't. But, hit them up after 4 or 5 days and ask them the same questions. Maybe scramble them up a little bit, and see if you get the same answers. If it's a factual case, you're going to get exactly the same thing they told you on Monday that you're going to get on Sunday. And But when things start changing, and I mean relevant things start changing, weather, location, what they were doing at the time, who they were with, how many people saw it, or the description of the object changes, and it changes a lot. So it went from an orb to now it's a tube, and it went from a tube and now it's a saucer. I mean, that just, you pretty much know at that point that you're just dealing with somebody that just either just wants to talk or hoping that you discuss their case on a radio show or on your website. You know, I don't think that'll ever change. I really don't, Dave.
And we're going to get into tonight part of the paranormal fake news side. We're not worried about CNN, Fox, or anything like that, but we're going to get into some paranormal fake news with you tonight, which I think is going to be very interesting indeed, because this is something you as an investigator have to battle on investigation literally on a daily basis. But first I want to talk about alien abduction, Butch, because I remember the first show I ever had you on, we talked about alien abduction and human mutilations, which I still am a little grossed out by that episode. No offense. It wasn't you. It was more so the topic. But when I look back, and I'm hearing a lot of people, Butch, talk these days who are in the field of ufology, that the number of abduction cases seem to be going up. Have you found that out as well?
In the last, about 2 years ago, I noticed when I was going over for the end of the year stuff that we had about, to me, 8 to 10% more than we had the year prior. So I looked in a little further, went back a little bit, and it was climbing in that 8 to 10% every year. So I got a hold of Dr. David Jacobs, who lives down in Philadelphia, just about an hour from me. And I was talking to him and asked him if he noticed anything in an uptake on abduction cases being reported. And he said, you know what? He said, I didn't give it a thought. He said, but let me look and I'll get back to you. Now, this guy gets anywhere from 250 to 300 cases a year reported to him from all over the world. So I figured if anybody would know if there's an increase, he would. Now, a few hours went by and he called me and he says, you know what? You said you're right. He said, I'm up about 7% this year. I'm up 10% this year. So he said, yeah, there is an uptake. So we talked a little bit as to what would cause that or what might cause that. Now, he, as well as I and other investigators, think that some of the TV shows that are on and some of the movies that have come out, especially the one in Alaska, the missing persons in Alaska, when that movie came out, abduction cases shot through the roof. I can't remember the name of the movie. But anyway, when Travis Walton, when his documentary came out, there was an upsurge. So again, we kind of nail it down to those people that are alone, lonely. They have nothing to do, nobody to talk to. So they just come up with this stuff. But when you get to the house and you're talking to them, and just looking around at the bookshelves, they got more books of abduction than I do. And Dr. Jacobs, he said the same thing. He said, you got to look for the obvious with these folks. And, it was Dan just said it was the Fourth Kind. That was the name of the movie. And it was little things like that, whether it's they're reading books or they're joining these abduction groups. And then you have the people out there that really do work on abductions. I mean, there's a group in Florida, there's a group out in California. I mean, these folks are, they've been doing it for many, many years, and they do their due diligence, and they really know what they're doing. But as far as the abductions uptake, yeah, they have been I've noticed over the last, it'll be 4 years now. I haven't done this year's yet, but I'm sure they're up there.
And
there's never been a deal.
The reason why I ask, Butch, is because when I start hearing the same thing over and over again, I start looking into it. But the one thing that has caught my attention in my nearly 3 years of doing this show is the fact that there are trends in this field. Mm-hmm. When I first started, everybody was psychic and getting a paranormal television show or television pilot. and then it switched over to everybody was seeing demons. And then everybody was involved earlier this year with the Mandela effect. And now all of a sudden everybody is getting abducted. You know, so when I look at it, this field of the paranormal is so into trends about every 8-9 months. Is this just cyclical and another trend that we're seeing because it's the popular thing to be now is an alien abductee? Or are we actually looking at true people with true cases and the aliens are taking more people than what we first thought?
I think it's a trend. Ufology has always been trendy. Cryptozoology has always been trendy. I mean, just for an example, like you'll get a ton of Bigfoot reports in a certain period of time on the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, Northern California. You won't get anything on the East Coast. If you get one or two, you're lucky. Then a month or 2 or 3 goes by, California, Oregon, Northern California, Oregon, Washington State, they have nothing. All of a sudden, western Pennsylvania is loaded with Bigfoot sightings, or upstate New York. Never in the middle. It's always the East Coast, West Coast. It's like, okay, we reported ours, now it's your turn. It's the same thing with ufology. The biggest reporting states are California, Texas, Florida, as far as UFO sightings. So you'll get maybe 10 or 15, 20 sightings at the most here in Pennsylvania. And California will get like maybe 150. Texas will get over 100. Florida will get over 100. And then it kind of reverses itself. Then all of a sudden, Pennsylvania won't get to that 100 number only because of its size, but it might get to 40. And Florida will drop, and California will drop, and Texas will drop. And then South Dakota all of a sudden will have 40 reports, or you know, an out-of-place state like that. And it's the same thing with cryptozoology and ufology. Paranormal, and the trend that we see the most is the minute there's a show on, like when X-Files was on, on the comeback, when it came on the comeback a year or 2 ago, UFO sightings went through the roof. People were seeing aliens in their garbage cans, in the sink, in the bathtub. I mean, they were seeing them everywhere. It went off the air, you know, the season was done, and those reports just dropped. There was the movie came out, Dog Soldiers, about bipedal wolves, and the reports shot up all over the place. The movie was kind of a so-so deal, not really a big number, but the movie went away, and within a few months, everybody in those areas that were reporting that just died off. There was no reports. It has always been that way. A new paranormal show comes on. Next thing you know, the ghost reports and haunted reports are going through the roof. A story or a movie or something comes on about demonology, or a new book comes out on demonology, and next thing you know, demons are everywhere. I mean, even ufologists are writing books saying that aliens are demons. So, I mean, it's just, the best I always can offer is, from my point of view, is just keep your head straight. You know, look at what might have caused it, and it is recent. It'll be something recent. It's not going to be something from 10 years ago. It's going to be something that was on television last week, or the internet 2 days ago, or on Facebook 5 minutes ago. That's the stuff where it takes off. You only need one person to set it off, and then, you know, the whole group follows it in lockstep. And before you know it, you have a flap in an area where there may be a historical data of 0 UFO sightings. And there are places in the country like that. Or somebody sees something overseas, like in Japan or Rome or some other country, and next thing you know, that thing is seen in upstate New York, or it's seen in South Carolina. Exactly the same craft. And it's within 24 hours. So, you know, it's always been that way. I don't know how you'd ever control it or stop it. I mean, human nature is human nature. And, you know, people see something, they believe it, or they run with it, or it's somebody they really respect in the field, and they figure, well, you know, if they said it happened, then it happened. And that's sad in a way, because somebody in the field that is upright and honest about it shouldn't even go into that stuff. That would be like me saying that that movie, The Fourth Kind, was real. No, it wasn't real at all. So it's,
that is one place I'm never visiting, Nome, Alaska. Never visiting there.
Yeah, but look, there are a lot of missing people in that area. But you got to look at the area. It would be like me coming from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, coming up to visit British Columbia, getting off of a plane, a bus, getting out of a car, and just walking into the woods. You'd never see me again. I'd be gone. I have no idea where I'm going. And so many people, especially younger folks that, they get tired of the rat race or whatever, and they move on up to Alaska. They're going to make a new life. They have no idea what's out in those woods that'll eat them alive, slowly. They have no idea how to be prepared for the weather. They have no idea any survival skills of any type. And, they rent a cabin or they buy a tent, they buy all kind of equipment, they go out and they're never heard of again. And there's some, big grizz sitting back in the corner going, belching and laughing his ass off. But they have a lot of missing persons up there. You got people that just, a lot of alcoholism in that area in Alaska. And people get loaded and they just start walking. They think they're walking home and they're walking in the woods, or a storm comes up, they're never seen again. They're finding bodies up there all the time. But, that's like, you have stories and documentation, real documentation of whole villages that disappear, in different parts of the world. So I have no desire to go to Alaska.
Do you think a lot of this trend that we are seeing are people making up stories because they want that 5 minutes of fame? Or do you think that they may have actually experienced something, but maybe not to the extent that they are maybe sensationalizing?
Well, it's a little bit of both. The people that sensationalize, they're trying to get your attention. So if somebody, I'm just off the top of my head, if somebody says to me, well, I saw this in the sky, this is kind of what it looked like, okay, and they give you a description, and then they take it to the next step. And then I saw the portholes, and I saw creatures inside walking around, and you know where you're at with that one. And so embellishment is big in ufology and in the paranormal. I remember watching one thing on YouTube where these people were following a shadow, and these guys are supposed to be the experts. Now they're following a shadow. The shadow they're following is a damn cameraman that's in front of them. And not till the end do you really just catch a glimpse. You can see the camera on the guy's shoulder. And then when it actually originally aired, well, that shadow wasn't there anymore, so they took it away. So there's so many things that people just, the 5 minutes of fame, tell you the truth, I think there's more of those people out there than you think. I'd rather have somebody contact me and, say, look, I have something I saw, I'm not sure what it is, can we talk about it? Yeah, call me, and we'll talk about it. Or we'll, maybe they just want information on what they think they saw, or was there anything like that in that particular area? They're just inquisitive. That's different. But the ones that want 5 minutes of fame, like, I have one group, and it's a group here in Pennsylvania, and they constantly want me to get them on some radio show somewhere so they can tell their story. I'm not going to do that because I don't believe their story. So, they're looking for the 5 minutes of fame. And there are a lot of people out there like that. Or they'll go to a conference or maybe just a speaking engagement at a local high school or library. And they start talking about all their experiences, and you can't get rid of them. Excuse me, I got to go to the bathroom. They're standing behind you, or they're in front of you, or they're aside of you. They don't let you go or they want pictures with you. Next thing you know, those pictures show up on the internet, and they're like, here I am with my best buddy from before cop. We know each other for years. I met the guy 15 minutes before the picture was taken. So the fame and fortune is a part of it, but there's so many things that come into play. I mean, you got to look at the individual, their education. Have they done any research? Are they familiar with the old cases? Are they familiar with the old researchers, the old investigators that were out there, the good guys? Do they know those folks? Do they read their books or papers or anything like that? Most times, not. Sometimes, yeah, you do run into somebody like that where they have a good basic working knowledge of ufology or cryptozoology or the paranormal. They're familiar with areas. They're familiar with the more famous cases or the more famous investigators and researchers. They've read Project Blue Book. I often ask people that have all this information that they want to share, did they ever read Project Blue Book? They don't even know what Project Blue Book is. So if you don't know what Project Blue Book is, I have no idea what you're doing talking about ufology. That just makes no sense to me. Or the Aztec crash. They all know about the Roswell crash. What about the Aztec crash? What about the Missouri crash? How about that stuff? Do you know that? No, never heard of that one. So then you pretty much know you're just somebody looking for 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe.
The one thing
they invite you.
Sorry, go ahead.
I like when they invite you to the house. The guy lives up in the middle of nowhere, Quebec. Come on up, spend the weekend. I want to show you these things in the sky. I don't think so. But people are what they are. And although I've always, for some reason, I just have so much faith in a lot of people that I've met over all these years that really, they're not so much like they don't have a euphoric cop or they don't have a MUFON or they don't have anything like that. But they read, they study, they photograph, they watch, they do what they got to do. And I still have faith that there's a lot of good investigators out there. There's a lot of new up-and-coming young investigators. And with that, I'm going to say about 2/3 of those folks are really probably going to get the answers they're looking for in time. And then there's that other third that I can see self-promotion, send me money, buy my book. All their research is either copied or relabeled or reworded from somebody else's reports over time, and they think that, people forgot them. And, but they're pretty well known, so I just hope that, people, when they want to look into it, and I don't care what part of the paranormal it is, whether it's ufology or cryptozoology or anything else, to make themselves aware of the history and the research first before they go jumping into it. And if they have a question, there's folks out there that will answer those questions for them if we can, myself included, and a bunch of other folks, and they're all over the country. There's really good independent researchers all over this country that will pretty much help out anybody that even asks them and put them on the right track, or tell them, this is the book you should be reading, or these are the white papers you should study, or here's some newspaper clippings, and share them. I share information with folks. I've sent people reports that they couldn't find if I had them in my database, or the strange oddities here in Pennsylvania where there was actually a book written on it. Nobody can find the book because it went out of print. It wasn't in print very long. It went out of print, but I have a copy of it, and I put it in PDF form. And I've had people ask where they could get it, and I said, well, you're not going to get it. It's out of print unless you can find something on eBay or maybe Amazon, which I couldn't find any either. I said, but I do have it, so I'll send it to you. And it all comes from the original investigator. Like, if you're not willing to help, nurture and bring experience to these folks that are trying to gain experience and help them out, well, you're just going to wind up with you'll just wind up with another MUFON probably.
So with people who are having these abduction experiences, do you think the more popular that aliens and UFOs become, not necessarily because of Hollywood, but let's say what I find is there's a lot more people who are interested in learning about their own spirituality and these experiences. And when they realize that something may have happened to them, do you think they're starting to come out of the woodworks because they feel more confident that they aren't someone strange and weird? Are you noticing that pattern as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And not only that, but like I said, there are some groups. There's a couple here on the East Coast. There's a couple down south, and there's a couple out on the West Coast that's all they do. They don't do anything flying in the sky. They don't do Ouija boards. They don't do seances. They don't do anything like that. All they do is abduction studies, and they have the proper documentation to do it. Some of them are licensed physicians, psychiatrists, psychologists. The one group in particular, they've been at it 40 years. So when I get somebody that I think really needs help, I'll contact them, and I'll say, look, this is beyond me. I can take the initial report, which I did. Here it is. But I think these people need to talk to you, or this person needs to talk to you guys. And they handle it. And that's the best way to do it. What disturbs me the most is when a ufologist, a guy, girl, I don't care, studies or looks at ufology, and they chase UFOs around the sky and all that, and they get an abduction case, and they're going to handle it. Now, they have no idea how to handle it, and they can do more harm than good. And I always warn people, like I'm doing right now, if it's an abduction scenario and you think something really happened, you get a hold of somebody that is in the field that can refer you to people that handle those type of cases. If somebody said to me, Butch, can you handle this case? Are you going to put him under hypnotic suggestion and all? I can't do that. I can take the guy down to the bar and buy him a beer, but I'm not going to hypnotize him and ask his life story and all that stuff. That's nonsense. But you have ufologists out there that do it, and they do it a lot. And they, like I said, they can do a whole lot of harm, especially if somebody's in that mindset that they really, really believe something happened to them or their family, or it's happened over a long period of time, and they just can't put their finger on it. And they start sprouting wild stuff like they know what they're talking about. They had a lot of them carry these papers, questions to ask somebody who's abducted. Well, some of those questionnaires are 20 pages long. By the time you get to page 2, that person could probably barely remember their name, let alone exactly what happened. So when you turn them over to an abduction researcher, then it's people that can use their experience, their knowledge, their background, whether professional or just doing it a long time, to get to the truth and get to the answers. And they do it rather quickly, too.
You want to hear a doozy?
Yeah.
So I had a friend of mine in town here who knows, because it's going around town that I'm the local ghost guy and ET guy around here. Go figure. That's the reputation you want in a small town. You know what I'm saying? Hey, there's the ghost guy. Go shopping or whatever. There's the ghost guy. Anyways, that's what I'm called now. Nobody knows my name, except I'm ghost guy. Anyhow, so a good friend of mine who is very intuitive but really not into the ET thing calls me up and says, I need some help. I need you to talk to a friend of mine. He's very skittish about what is going on with him, having some bad experiences. He's not sure what's going on. So I called the guy after one of my shows last week and literally find out, I said, well, do you want these things gone? Do you not? He sends me a bunch of pictures. They've all been filtered. I said, do you have the originals? Yes. I said, can you send them to me? No. Why? Why? Well, I don't know you. I don't trust you. I don't trust anybody who you're saying is a pro in this. And if they are the real thing, I'm sitting on $1 million here that I'm going to blow the world open to the field of ufology. And I will get paid about $1 million for these. Literally. I sat there stunned, Butch, because I said, and then I caught my breath because I wanted to say a lot of expletives that I didn't say. And I said, my friend, there is better evidence out there than you that is worth zero. I hate to tell you, your photos are worth nothing. And he didn't like that. So when I called my friend back and told her what had happened, she was just absolutely stunned because this guy, it's affecting him, it's affecting his 15-year-old son. They've had to spend nights out of the house because of the activity, and this guy's all like, no, man, this is awesome, and I'm sitting on $1 million photo here. No, you're not. No, you're not. Right? So there are those people out there who think that they are going to capitalize on their experiences. Do you deal with a lot of those?
Yeah, no. Every now and then you'll get one that'll send you a picture that looks like, one of my dogs drew it. And they'll say, this is it. This is the deal. This is the true stuff. This is what you're looking for. And I'm looking at it going like, I wonder what size crayons he was using. I mean, and then all of a sudden, then when you say, well, do you have anything better? Well, yeah, I have the original, like you just said, but I can't share that because that's worth a lot of money. I've got that copyrighted. I've given a copy to my lawyer. I've given a copy to the Pope. I've given a copy to my sister-in-law. I've got everybody got all these copies. They're all copyrighted. So anything happens to me, if I get killed, then everybody else is going to get rich. And I'm going like, you really, 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 really need to sit back, have a good stiff drink, and think about what you're saying. Because in all these years, I have never met anybody that made a fortune with any picture, any report, period. End of story. I don't care if they sold 100 books or 500 books. They didn't make any money. Because the average amount of money you make on a book, till it's all done and said, is a couple bucks. So unless you're selling 1 million books, you ain't making squat. You're just wasting.
Grant Cameron told me the other night, and this is to verify what you said, because I asked him off the air the other night. I said, how much do you make off your books? And Grant Cameron, to me, is one of the premier researchers in the world.
He is a good guy. Yep.
Exactly. Very knowledgeable and, no BS kind of, interview. He said he is lucky to make between $1,000 and $2,000 a book. So you take someone like Nick Redfern, who's pumping out books galore. Nick has a daytime job, yet we would all look at him and say, wow, this guy is famous in the field of ufology. And Grant, when I asked Grant how come, after he started laughing over my question, he said, no one reads books anymore.
One of the biggest, and I'm not going to mention any names, but let me tell you this, one of the biggest investigators in ufology, and been around for a long time, wrote a number of books, goes to a number of conferences every year. His full-time day job is at Walmart.
I know the guy.
So,
and he's a hell of a researcher too.
Yeah, and then you have the other group of researchers out there, which I always tell people to be leery of, because they write great books. They're interesting. They capture you. You start to read it and you can't put it down. This, that, and the other thing. And then when you meet them in person, which I've done over the years, all of them. Have you ever seen a UFO? Have you ever seen a UFO? How about you? No. How do you write a book on how to investigate UFOs if you've never seen one? Well, I just take a lot of information and put it together, and that's what I came up with. I said, but you're not answering my question. How do you write a book on how to investigate UFOs in the field when you've never seen one? What do you describe? How do you ascribe the information to somebody that just bought your book and they're out there for like 6 months and they haven't seen squat? I said, you're in the same boat. You haven't seen squat either, but they did buy your book. The guy laughed at me. He said, yeah. He said they sure did. And he walked away. In all the people I've met, he was the only one I just wanted to spin around and punch right in the mouth. I couldn't believe it.
I think I know who that is too. There could be one or two of them. But I'm sure the audience can figure that out, because we have talked to people on here who haven't had a shall we say, a
stellar
UFO
reputation.
No, I would say more UFO experience, if we could call it that. We're being polite.
Yeah, you're letting the questions gang up on me here, buddy.
Why?
I can't answer them. We got one from Kit Kat. We got another one from...
I know. See, the audience knows that they're not supposed to ask questions until hour number 2.
Oh.
Yes.
By hour number 2, I'll probably forget my middle name.
Well, you're old, but that's okay. We still love you around here. And you and I haven't gone for beer yet. So, it's one of those things that it will happen one of these days. But we will get to all the questions that are going on in regards to research and things like that. So with alien abduction, as we continue along those lines, Butch, the experiences that you say the numbers are going up, what are people having happen to them? What are they reporting?
The most that we see are the folks that... they're either driving home or to work, or they're at home in bed, or they're watching TV on a sofa. And the number one thing is always missing time. And one of the things that is, and there's things to look for in that the abduction guys and girls really know what to do. Like when somebody tells you, well, I went to bed, and it was, I just didn't feel right, or something didn't feel right, and I had this really weird dream, and, now they're just pretty much telling you what you've heard 100 times before, and then they get to that one statement. But, when I went to bed, I was wearing a bra and panties and silk pajamas, the top and bottom. And when I woke up, I had the silk pajamas, top and bottom, on backwards, and the bra and panties were gone, and I don't know where they got to. That happens a lot, where people wake up, or they're in a different bed, or the covers are all folded up in a corner somewhere. Now, I understand people can sleepwalk, and that stuff does happen, but I don't know too many guys that go to bed and wake up with their shorts on backwards, or their pajamas on backwards, and then they're reporting missing time. Missing time is the biggest one. That is the biggest one, from young, old, it doesn't matter age group, where they, things are different when they wake up. Or they go to sleep on a sofa in the living room, and they wake up sitting in the car in the garage. Car's not running or anything, they're just sitting in the car. It's just crazy. And then you have sleep issues, sleep paralysis, and people that use these CPAP machines, they have trouble breathing, or they feel like they're being strangled and they can't breathe. And there's just so many things that happen when people are asleep, or you just get panic attacks. I had an issue with something with me about 9 years ago, buddy, when I fall asleep, I'm sleeping. You ain't waking me up. It's like waking the dead. And I felt like I was being held down. I mean, held down physically. And I really started fighting it off, and finally broke free. And I stood up, and I automatically went to the drawer and grabbed a gun. I didn't know what happened. And my wife woke up and said, "What are you doing?" And I'm standing there, standing there all commando with a .45 automatic in my hand, staring blank at the windows, the doors, all around the rooms. The dogs are sleeping. I'm going like, okay, what the hell is that all about? But, and it could have just been a bad dream. But you don't know. You really don't know. And I don't really want to know.
And I fully understand and can appreciate that wholeheartedly in regards to it. Are people having more dealings with greys? Are they dealing with other species? Because all of a sudden, from what I've heard, the greys are on the incline, and things like reptilians seem to be on the decline.
we are getting, or I'm seeing more, not only the smaller grays, but the larger grays and reptilian-looking beings. That's been happening over the last 2 or 3 years, where the reptilian beings, they're like overseers, or they're the boss. They're telling the little guys what to do. And even the grays now, there's a small gray, and then some people are describing a gray that's in that 4 and 5 foot range, which makes it taller than the little 3 foot guys.
Are these encounters violent? Are they malevolent that you know of?
Some are, yeah. Some are. Some people wake up with some nasty-looking marks, scratches, punctures, scoop marks, black and blue. The last picture I saw, and I don't know what happened with that case. I turned it over immediately to another individual that handles that kind of stuff. This lady went to bed, had her a young niece staying over, who was in bed with her, and the little girl woke up screaming, and she woke up and calmed her down. She just had a bad dream or something like that. Come morning, she went in the shower, and she had it's huge, and I mean it's huge. It went from the bottom of her breast area almost down to her hip, black and blue and green. I mean, it looked like she really got a whaling. And she didn't fall out of bed, and she would have fell out of bed. She said she would have probably fell on the dogs because the 2 large dogs are laying there. She didn't fall on the dogs. There's no way she got this black and blue in bed. And, she questioned the little girl about why she screamed, and she said she didn't know. So there's another case of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to tell you something. That black and blue was mighty nasty looking. I've had a few accidents in my time, and I've looked pretty nasty sometimes, but not like that.
So people who are having these negative experiences, do you think they're trained to figure that they are negative because of what they see in Hollywood and on video games, or are they truly having some ugly incidents?
I think they're truly having ugly incidents. You talk to some of these folks, and like I said, I don't get a lot of them, but when I talk to some of them, I mean, they're absolutely terrified. When they start crying on the phone and can't catch their breath, it's just like you just walked in and told them your whole family was just killed. You know what I mean? They're gone. They're lost. They can't say anything. They can't talk. And you feel for them, but you can't do anything. And that's why I'm really thankful that there are people out there that can help them, and I can get them to connect together, because I wouldn't know even how to begin with somebody like that. And you can do more damage, and that's why I hate when some of these guys that are in ufology say, "Well, I'll handle it." No, you're not going to handle it. You don't have any clue. Well, I've talked to somebody before that was abducted. Yeah, that was your dog. Forget it. So, abduction is very serious. I think it's been going on for a long, long time. But we don't know. We just don't know. It's just, abduction is so hard to figure out. And, you got to feel for these people, especially people who have been abducted all their lives from childhood on up to adulthood. How do they live with that? And it's very, it's disheartening to know that you can't help them. Yeah, I can help them giving them to somebody else, but I personally can't help them. And sometimes I feel really bad about that.
But you can't take it personally, even though you want to.
Yeah, but I do. That's the bad part. I do. And after a while, it'll go away. But, you think about it and, well, maybe I could have done this or maybe I could have done that. But there are so many people out there, and I don't mean there's hundreds of them, but I mean there are people all over this country that have been doing this for a very, very long time. And they have, the wherewithal, they have the medical help, they have the background to help these folks. And I have Jar Magazine on the internet, and we get calls from people all the time. And I just shuffle them off to, and not shuffling off like, blowing them off, but I just shuffle them into another group of folks that can really help them. And these folks know what to look for, and they know how to do it. And I've had a few call back and say, "Hey, thank you. You know, we got it straightened out. I know what to look for. I'm keeping in touch with these people," and that's what you want to hear.
We only have about 9,500 seconds before we have to go to break here, Butch. When it comes to these negative entities that seem to be happening, are they mainly happening everywhere? Like everybody is being affected, or are they just hitting certain areas?
I think it's everywhere. There really isn't any hot spot for that. I mean, it's they seem to be all over the world. I mean, there's abduction reports coming in from everywhere, but everybody would think the United States would be prevalent, but really it's not. Europe is. Parts of Europe, Eastern Europe especially, where they don't have the conglomeration of big cities. They may have a big city, and then between that and the next one, there's a bunch of hamlets and small towns. And that's where you're getting the most of the reports. One place that we don't get reports, or I haven't seen any reports from, and I brought it up one time to somebody, and they said, "No, I really haven't had any now that you mention it." We've never had anything from Asia at all, ever, abduction reports. We've had them from India, Pakistan, the Middle East, Europe, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Northern Europe, Antarctica. I mean, they've had them everywhere. Down south in Venezuela and Spain, every place. But Asia, no, none. That's weird. That's just plain weird.
No kidding. No kidding. Butch, I'm going to get you to hold on here for a couple of minutes because we are going to go to break here. Butch Witkowski's Strange Days happen the final Monday of every month here on Spaced Out Radio. Butch's website, UFORCOP, so UFORCOP.com or UFORCOP.com, any way you want to put it. Strange Days is a feature with Butch where we get into absolutely everything cryptid, strange, a little obtuse, and weird. We're going to get into Heather's question about Todd C's coming in hour number 2, your questions as well. And we're also going to get into a little bit about paranormal fake news. We hear of fake news in the mainstream media and the alternative media, but what's the fake news happening in the paranormal realm as well? We'll find out from Butch right after this on the mighty SOR.
Hey, space travelers, it's Joe Roop, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, right here on SpacedoutRadio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at SpacedoutRadio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience. Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at SpacedoutRadio.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at UFOseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at SpacedoutRadio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at SpacedoutRadio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At SpacedoutRadio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to SpacedoutRadio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over the Spaced Out Radio Night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at SpacedOutRadio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at SpacedOutRadio.com.
There's a lot of strange going on in this world, and we can help you find out what's going on with you. Paranormal, cryptids, UFOs in the sky, aliens in your bedroom tickling your toes. We have the investigators you need to find out the answers you deserve. All you have to do is head to SpacedOutRadio.com. Your information is 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report. It's free, and we're here to help.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at SpacedOutRadio.com and click on our Advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit SpacedOutRadio.com for more details.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio Live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, SpacedOutRadio.com, and tune in to us today.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at SpacedOutRadio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on SpacedOutRadio.com the third Thursday of every month.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to SpacedOutRadio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, we got a real interesting show. We're going to talk with Canadian author Nadia Fazani, who has written a book about real-life superheroes. These are people who go around in Caped Crusader-type outfits, solving crimes, helping the homeless, making sure people aren't going away hungry. It's a real interesting story indeed. We're going to talk to her for the first couple hours tomorrow night at SpacedoutRadio.com, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Great to have you with us as well. We are also live on KTLK, The Fringe.fm, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Creatophagia. Creatophagia is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Use the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. If you want to connect live with me during the show as well, you can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can join us for live chat on Facebook in the SOR Space Travelers group. We're on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. We have a brand new YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio. It's no longer Spaced Out Radio Show, so if you're subscribed to the old one, you can unsubscribe there, subscribe into the new one. We'd really appreciate it because that's where all our archives are going. And of course, you can listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States, TalkStream Live, tune us in on TuneIn, download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is SpacedOutRadio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. You can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, rock out to Bumblefoot, watch great videos from people like UFO Seekers Tim Doyle and Contact TV with Leslie Mitchell Clark. And you can read up on all your latest weird and strange news on the Encounter Online. I got my latest blog up there as well, which is on our birthday show coming up this Thursday. I'm going to actually open up the lines to you. You, the listeners. Hard to believe. I know. I never open up the phone lines, but we're going to on Thursday for the 3rd anniversary of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, it's the final Monday of the month, which means it's time for Butch Witkowski's Strange Days. That happens every single month here, where we get into everything cryptid and weird. Butch's website is uforcop.com, uforcop.com. Butch, welcome back.
I'm ready.
Me too. Me too. Already 1 hour in. 1 hour or 2 hours to go, my friend. That's the way we do it around here. 1 hour at a time. Go figure. The math is simple. Todd Sees. This is a case that you have exclusively been investigating, and one that just will not go away. There's a lot of people, because we do have new listeners all the time, who don't understand the Todd Sees case. I'd love to find out, because Heather asked in the SOR Space Travelers Club about the Todd Sees case. Is there anything new on that investigation?
Well, we always get information. Some of it's new, some of it's not. But recently, as a matter of fact, just 2 days ago, we got some new information that's going to lead us into another direction with some questioning of some folks. But we've been at it since 2009. It's been where we've documented it very well. I mean, everything we have in black and white on letterheads, signed, sealed, and delivered. So all these people that fed us all this bum information at the very beginning are going to regret it because we have it. It was interesting. One of my investigators went back into the original newspaper story that came out when this all took place, when the man disappeared and when he was found. And I stopped him right there, and I said, well, look, don't tell me any more, but let me guess. Everything in there is not there anymore. The whole thing has been scrubbed. He said, how did you know that? I said, it was scrubbed the day after I talked to that person, that reporter. And he said, well, how are we going to get that information? I said, I printed it out before I spoke to the reporter. I said, I have it. He went, oh, thank God. He was looking for some information on one of the names that was mentioned. But it's been tooth, nails, I just pulling splinters. It's just been amazing. The amount of people that lied to us, both professionally and unprofessionally, involved folks. It was just, it's stunning. The loss of all records on this guy. It's like this guy never existed. I mean, there's so little out there about him, and all the information that we did get. I mean, we dug tooth and nail for a lot of years before we got what we got. I mean, we were lied to by the best of them: the coroner, the doctors, the police department, the DA. FOIA requests were worthless. Pennsylvania's right to know law was a joke. But careful documentation and going about it in a steady, professional manner has yielded a lot of results. So hopefully, we're hoping that by the end of 2018, we will put out a paper with all the information that we have, and let the public decide what they think happened.
Why does this case still intrigue people? I mean, we're going on a number of years here, Butch, since he disappeared and then reappeared.
It's not a common case. There's no answer. I mean, a guy disappears, okay, and goes off spotting deer on an ATV. He doesn't come home when he's supposed to. The family looks for him. He has an 80-acre property. They all know where he goes. They know where he hunts. The whole family hunts there. They don't find him, so the search begins. They don't find him. The next day the search continues. They don't find him until 7:54 in the evening. And the body is found approximately 25 yards from the back door of the house. Now, I guess that's not strange. It was underneath a fallen tree, but the body was massively decomposed, and then you have everybody that was involved in this search, like 250 people, dogs, cadaver dogs, a whole bit, walking past the body. And they didn't smell this guy in 97-degree heat in that condition? That's bull. That's a whole lot of BS right there. Then the township police department said they were the investigators. Turned out they were never the investigators. It was turned over to the state police. I mean, it's just one thing after another. The coroner lied. He said he wasn't the coroner at the time. He was the coroner. So, very early on, we already knew that either we had a real mystery and a cover-up, or we had the first documented case of a zombie who walked 1 mile in terrain that you can't believe, very stony, very rocky. Even with boots on, walking over it, you can feel the rocks just wanting to penetrate through the bottom of your soles. And this guy did it pretty much barefooted with just socks, and his socks aren't even dirty.
In your opinion, Butch, as you've looked at every facet of this case, what do you think happened from start to finish?
Tell you the truth, I don't know. Look, it's in an area where you could be out in the woods and I could come up and shoot you at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or noon or any other time. Point blank, 5 rounds, 6 rounds, and nobody would care. Nobody'd know. It's a very, the whole area is one of the largest concentration of rattlesnakes in the state. So people hearing gunshots in that little town up on that mountain, that don't mean a thing to them. Or I could have just walked up and cracked you in the back of the head with a rock. But this guy was said to have died of cocaine toxicity.
But do you think there was something supernatural to this?
Could be.
Aliens?
It could be. It could. There's a number of possibilities. I mean, We've looked at murder. We've looked at UFO intervention, an abduction gone bad. I mean, it's just going on and on and on. I mean, you can go so many different ways. But there's just little facets of the investigation that don't make any sense at all, even to common sense. And those are the ones we're tracking. Those are the ones we're going after. It took us 4 years to find out his Social Security number, which was actually found by one of our researchers in that area by accident. And she went back 2 hours later to print what was there. It was gone. It's not been there since.
I know you're a guy who doesn't like to guesstimate on anything or make things up. But if you look back at your notes, and I'm going to get this out of you one way or another instead of I don't know, what do you think happened, my friend?
Right now, I would say I'm going to go 50-50 on this. There's a 50% chance that he was done in by somebody. How? We have no idea, because he was perfect on that autopsy table. Laid the body of a 39-year-old perfectly healthy white male, no diseases, no damage to the lungs, heart, liver, anything where cocaine would have affected somebody that took that amount of cocaine. And the other thing is that due to reports in the area at the time and some new information that we gathered about 6 months ago from the Pennsylvania State Police, this could have been our space brethren were involved in some way or shape or form. And right now it's 50-50, but we'll crack that. We'll get it one way or the other.
Very interesting indeed. Is there any new evidence coming out about this, or is this just a cold case that is just puzzling?
Oh, it's been a cold case from day one, where we have we had to pull teeth on every question we asked. We got run around, we got lied to, of course. We did this, we did that, and we sat in the police department parking lot waiting for the police to show up to talk to us. They never showed up. We went to the fire department to get a copy of the incident reports. We dialed the emergency number to the fire chief and the assistant chief, and they hung up on us. And then when we called back, the line was disconnected. So, all that kind of goofy stuff happened. I don't dare go up in any of our research vehicles because they know every one of our research vehicles and have our license numbers. So we go up in, usually rented cars. It's bizarre. It totally is bizarre. One part of me says there's no rhyme or reason. I mean, if he had this kind of a background, but we've already talked to investigators that worked that area during that time, these big drug task force that were out there. His name never popped up once. They didn't even know who he was. They knew of the case, but he was not involved in any drug dealings that they're aware of. But then, you got to look at other things. Was he messing around with somebody's wife? Did he owe somebody money? I mean, there's so many factors to look at. And you got to chase every one of those down until you come up with nothing or you come up with a little something. And that's what the last 2.5, 3 years we've been doing, is chasing little things down to where we could say it's a yay or nay. But we just keep at it. That's what I tell people. And look, we don't have an answer. We're just keeping at it. Sooner or later, as in all things, somebody will say something they shouldn't, or somebody will send something they shouldn't have, or somebody will just open their mouth and start talking. And we've been blessed to have a number of folks up there, professional folks, retired police officers and a couple lawyers and some other people that have been helping us greatly because they're inside. We don't attach them to us, but they're inside, and they, when we get something, we can feed it to them, and they can do their thing. And hopefully, we're hoping that with the newest information we got, which I really can't share, that by the end of 2018, we should be able to come up with a conclusion.
Moving on here, Adam has a question, and he is asking, in your opinion, what country has the most sightings other than the United States?
It would be Europe. All of Europe. Country, I would say probably Holland, the Netherlands, that area, the colder areas.
Canada?
England. In the 70s and 80s, it was England.
Is Canada just that boring, or nothing ever gets reported?
Canada's always had a long history of reports. But, Canada is so vast, and there are so little researchers in Canada. I mean, it's a couple handfuls of actual researchers that have been around a long time. And, they share stuff within Canada with researchers, but it doesn't seem like their stuff ever gets down to the U.S. And if it does, it's in the form of a book or at a conference where one of them are speaking in the U.S. But Canada, as far as UFO sightings and Bigfoot sightings, I think they're up there with everybody else. They have to be. I mean, you have this vast area. Have you ever been to British Columbia?
I have. Once or twice I've been here.
You have this vast area of Earth that has such a small population, with the exception of a few cities, and you just know everything in the world's going on up there. But like I said, there's very few investigators, and it's just wide open up there.
Well, you know what? I found something interesting, and I know a lot of our listeners have heard me already say this once or twice, but I'll mention it to you. I had a very interesting conversation with a local RCMP officer here. And I had mentioned to him, just out of the blue in our conversation, I said, what is the RCMP's rule regarding UFOs? And imagine my shock when he responded with a laugh and then said, in the air or on the ground?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, long story short, because I don't want to bore my audience here, what really surprised me was how quickly the RCMP gets NORAD involved.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows NORAD is a Northern Organization for Radar Air Defense in North America. Mm-hmm. And, it's a tag team between Canada and the United States to keep our continent safe from strange things happening and invasion, except for 9/11, but that's another story. But nonetheless, I was very surprised that every UFO report that goes through the RCMP automatically gets transferred to NORAD, which is at Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado, and then they dispatch fighter planes and or the military if the craft is on the ground to deal with it, which means that the United States is pretty much controlling all UFO reports that are called into the police across Canada.
Mm-hmm. I believe that. I mean, one of the things that always amazed me when the United States back in the late 50s, 60s, and 70s were trying to develop all these back-engineered saucers and stuff, all that was done in Canada. It was not done here. I mean, everything was done in Canada. They were built there. They were test flied there. Everything was done in Canada, not here. I think the relationship with the two governments as far as UFOs is, pretty much nailed down to the U.S. and Canada. And then when you go overseas, you have Russia, of course, is the big player over there. But they don't really share information with anybody. I mean, their information gets locked up, and that's where it stays. But Canada, and there's a long history of Canada and the United States relationship regarding UFOs. And I mean, it goes back a long time.
It's just very intriguing indeed how the United States has all of this locked down on the UFO front, this entire continent.
Well, I probably wouldn't expect anything else. I mean, they try to lock down everything. But once you lock it down, then you control it, and what gets out, you're the one that makes sure it gets out the way you want it to. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's change gears here. Let us go into the field of fake news. Everybody is getting sick of the term, especially when it delves into the mainstream media. depending on which side of the political realm you fall on. You're either a Fox News guy or a CNN guy, one of the two, or girl. And I don't want to concentrate on the mainstream media, but earlier today you and I were talking quite a lot about how there's a lot of fake news going around the paranormal these days. What has caught your attention about it?
Well, I think one of the biggest things in the fake paranormal news, I guess, is how quick certain people will, like, let's say you put in a report and you put it on your Facebook page or whatever, or you report it to your investigative group and you publish it. I will guarantee you within minutes somebody will shoot that down, or they'll come up with something to demean that report. One of the things that we've seen a lot, especially in the last few years, is as larger groups break up or are not doing as much as they did before, they've now gone after smaller groups or independent researchers, which is a good thing in a way, because then the independent researchers and the smaller groups just stay between themselves, and then that it doesn't get lost. But in the Bigfoot realm, it's a big deal, fake news. In the paranormal ghost thing, it's fake news is a big thing. Or you have Nibiru, or the world's going to end tomorrow, or just like Y2K in 2012, same thing. I mean, it's put out there to sensationalize and for people that think they're in the know to get their name out there. Again, that 15 minutes of fame and fortune, as all the book writers did with the 2012 and YK2. It all comes back to bite them in the butt. Today, if it wasn't for the internet, and even though I'm not a real great fan of the internet, it does help with getting information out, because you're not getting one side of the story. Now you're getting all sides of a story. But it's interesting that what is it? Just about every couple of years now, the world's going to come to an end, and then they tell us how they're going to do it. Or some guy sitting in the middle of Kansas somewhere says that he's been watching a meteor coming from outer space, and it's on a dead center hit to the planet Earth within a matter of 6 months. The next thing you know, he's on the newspapers, then he's on radio, then he's on a television show, and then next thing you know, he's writing a book. And before you know it, that 6 months has come and gone, but he's still out there. And then they always come up with the excuse, well, it veered a little bit, so many degrees, and it missed us just by a hair. If a meteor the size of what these people are talking about would even miss us by a hair, everybody on this planet would see it. I mean, it would be that close that you could, it would alter the parameters of the planet in some way, shape, or form, either magnetic poles, or as the Earth rotates, or possibly reverse. There's so many things that could happen if something got that close. And, then when you finally look or talk to somebody that knows what they're talking about, they say, like, well, yeah, I guess you could call it close, but it was like 8 billion light years away. So, okay, it depends what you want to call close. And, people today are a lot smarter. They've gained that information from being screwed by the media, both print and on television, for many, many years. And I don't care what station it is, they all do the same thing. And people don't buy that one story and its story's done, we move on to the next. They want to know. They want the information. They'll look for the information. They'll go to great lengths to get the information. And usually they are right, and they know they were smoked. And it's just like the disclosure movement. Now, there's a big joke. I mean, there are people that have lived off of that, and I mean virtually lived off it financially for many, many, many years. There's never going to be any disclosure. We already know there's stuff up there that we can't build or fly. we've seen changes, sunspots that move on their own. We've seen things happen on different planets over time. Some of the stuff gets out, some of it doesn't. And why would NASA, and this just kills me, NASA has a department in Florida that their main job is to erase and clone out things that are seen on photographs taken by satellites. Why do they do that? Why can't they just let it as it was? Because they don't want it to get out, and it would destroy their image. I wouldn't believe NASA if they were sitting here in my den bleeding on the floor. There is nothing they could say to me that I would take as verbatim. I guess the first words out of my mouth would be prove it. I need to see the proof. And a lot of people have gotten that way. I mean, barring the elections and, this candidate versus that candidate, that stuff's been going on forever. And now, so it's like a cycle. So you got one candidate going after another candidate for something. So then the other side goes after people that aren't candidates but are on the other team. And all it is one's distracting the other from the story. People know what's going on. They're not dumb. People are a lot smarter than for years. I mean, in newsprint and television and radio shows, as far as news, they all talked to people like they were 5-year-olds. And I guess there was probably a time when people took what they said, guys like Edgar R. Murrow, like he was the man, he wouldn't lie to us. Turned out to be, he was one of the biggest liars that ever come down the pike. What was the guy that said he was in all these combat situations? Turned out they were lies. I mean, but the thing that kills me is they admit lying, they get suspended for 30, 60 days. Next thing you know, they're back on the air. Why does that guy have a job? If he lied to you once, he's surely going to lie to you again. He got away with it once. Or like this current scandal where he got one of these, I don't know if he's a congressman or senator, where he's groping females. I mean, there's pictures. Photographs of him doing it. And he's going like, I don't remember. You don't remember. Here's the picture. Does that refresh your mind? No, I don't remember. Come on. Look, I'll tell you what's going to happen. If it does happen, I don't know if it'll ever happen. If all this information on these people in Washington that have been paying off, these little lawsuits and stuff with taxpayer money, if that comes out, wow, it's going to be a whole new world here in the United States because nobody's ever going to believe a word they say. I mean, they could walk around handing out gold bars and nobody's going to believe it. It's not far off from ufology and paranormal. I mean, ufology people, to keep up their status or their conferences or whatever, they'll lie their ass off. And, you have the same thing in the ghost groups, and you have, the bigwigs in the ghost groups and stuff like that. And you have the same thing in cryptozoology. I mean, look how many, especially if you just follow, pick any one of the really top names in Bigfootery, I call it. And just follow them, follow their career, how they started, what they did. And they've written books, they've been to conferences, they're really famous, everybody knows them, everybody got a photograph or an autograph of them, they got their CDs, they got their videos, they got everything. And then when it comes down to that one question, what did you ever find or see? And they go, nothing. What the hell is wrong with us? Why would you even go that far? I mean, that's like me saying, well, I'm going to go buy that book that tells you how to investigate UFOs because this guy never saw one. That's being as dumb as a box of rocks. But there's people that do it all the time. And it keeps these guys out there. And it's just amazing to me, fake news, whether it's, national or local or the conspiracies that come up within a matter of minutes of something happening. There's a conspiracy going on. And I don't know if it'll ever stop. I don't know how you would ever stop it because there's so many egos and personalities involved. And I can remember back to when we got our first television set when I was a kid. I can remember, looking at these news guys, disheveled tie, or the top button was open, or their hair was all messed up, or their glasses were dirty, or they were smoking a cigar. Now, these guys got professionals that dress them, put them in makeup. I mean, like they're going to star in a movie. And it's fame and glory, fortune and glory. Just follow the money. And it's hopefully people will keep getting smarter, and they are. You can only lie to somebody so much, and then you're going to get caught once. And you could really have the answer to, I got the cure for cancer. Okay. Hey, honey, what are you making for supper? That's as far as it's going to go. And I'm a total independent. I don't vote Democratic or Republican. I go independent. But one of the things that always amazed me was a guy said one time, he said, this Trump guy could walk on water and the news would say he can't swim, see? It's exactly the way it works.
And Butch, I get that, but I mean, there are so many topics in the paranormal that are just blown out of proportion. And the one that comes to recent memory, and I mentioned this on the SOR Roundtable this past Friday night, is the fact that, the fear-mongering that goes on is ridiculous. So there is this entire story going on right now that basically says that a crack team of elite forces from the United States Marine Corps invaded and surrounded CIA headquarters at Langley, Virginia. Mm-hmm. Now, and they're posting, the mainstream media is not going to tell you about this. Well, I'm thinking that the Russian media would have a heyday with that. The British media would. The Canadian media would. Every other media outlet would. And yet we sit there and we try and forge, the media isn't going to cover this story. They're part of they're the Antifa or whatever the hell you want to call them. I mean, I get so clamored up by this that I can't even find the words because it pisses me off so much. Like, be honest, when you hear stories like that, what goes through your mind?
First of all, I laugh. The first thing that comes to mind is, why would the Marine Corps be surrounding CIA headquarters? And by the way, there is more than one CIA headquarters. So which one are they surrounding? And what would be the purpose? I mean, it's the stuff that they come up with and how they slip it out there. But you know what it is? Here's what happens. You got a good story, a true story, a factual story, okay? Whatever it is, whether it's in the paranormal or it's in the news or whatever out there. But it's a true story. It's a good story, or it's a sad story, or it's a shooting, or it's maybe a set of twins were born to a lady who couldn't have children. A good story, bad story. And then within a very short period of time, it's either a conspiracy, or it's a lie, or it's a false story, or it's put out there to get the numbers up on that news organization because their numbers are going down. When we had the shooting in Nevada, where the guy was popping off people from the Mandalay Hotel, they kept saying that he fired 1,100 rounds. That's a lot of ammunition, right? 1,100 rounds. When they showed the picture of his body laying in the room, okay, the shell casings, because he was at the window, so everything was kind of right there. I mean, everything was right there. There were like maybe 200, 225, 250 rounds laying there. 1,100 rounds? Where'd that come from? Who threw that into the mix? And then, there was another shooter because the other window was broke out, yet there was no empty casings at the other window. So what was he using, a BB gun? You can't even believe anything. Even if you're watching it happen, which most of us were at the time, you can't even believe what they're going to come up with because it doesn't fit their narrative. Okay, so you had the gun control people freaking out, saying that, oh, he has this bump stock. And then you have the pro-gun people saying, why didn't other people start shooting back at him? Didn't the security guards have guns? And all of a sudden, everybody forgets about all the people laying there dead or dying, and now we're talking about the Second Amendment. It's so conglomerated and so much crap and so much distortion and so much switching the narrative. Well, this shooting doesn't fit our narrative, but if we throw this in there, it's going to shoot our, okay, so he fired 250 rounds. But if we say he shot 1,100 rounds, that seems a lot better. That's more impressive. That'll really go against the Second Amendment guys, NRA and all that. And if we go this way, and then we'll say, well, he was crazy. There was something wrong with him. He had some mental issues, and oh my God, most people turn it off. And in the paranormal world, it's the same thing. You'll get a group that goes to a very well-known location for paranormal investigations. I mean, probably hundreds of thousands of people have been there over time. And they find this, they find that, they get video of this, they get that, they get EVPs, they get all kind of stuff. And then you got the other group that goes, look, squirrel. And all of a sudden, they didn't get nothing. They have nothing. They've been there, many times. It just doesn't matter anymore to people because they're smart enough to see through it. Everybody has a reason. The right goes after the left goes after the right.
But Butch, I hate to cut you off there, but people are not seeing through it. They are believing this stuff, like this whole Nibiru thing. If we talk Nibiru here for a minute, this is this exoplanet that is supposed to be flying around our solar system, yet nobody has ever seen it except the conspiracy theorists, because apparently it's going to do us a lot of good to say, yeah, we've got other planets out there and they're rotating around their axis around the sun, but we've got this one rogue one, and they're not telling you about it because it's going to be the end of mankind. Like, come on. Why? Why are we doing this?
I'm sure there's a good answer for that. Unfortunately, I don't know because it's been being done for years. I mean, before Nibiru, there was the unknown red planet that had its own solar system, had its own sun, had this, had that. Now, that was back in the 50s. And then that kind of went by the wayside, but that was another one. It was just all over the place, and it was, it would hide behind our moon. The moon's moon is not a moon, it's a spacecraft. I mean, the moon is actually a spacecraft. I mean, come on. The next thing you're going to be telling us is, the Death Star is out there, and you're going to have a lot of people that will believe it. So, again, one guy said to me one time, he said, a lot of it is numbers. It's money. He said, you'll see a station that, they need to bring up their numbers. So they don't have anything going on in their little town. But back in 1947, a guy disappeared. And they'll do a whole row of shows and documentaries on this unsolved missing person just to get their numbers up. And they'll get every person in town watching it. So that makes their sponsors happy. The money's moving. The numbers are going up. And it's really a nothing story. So when you say fake stories, sometimes I look at or just, glance through these things and I go like, half this crap is bullshit. The other half is so enhanced and so put out there that, if I believed in this Nibiru, I should be like digging a shelter somewhere or trying to get to another planet quick. But it's, I don't know, it's just crazy. I know sometimes I'll get that PO'd, I'll just walk away from it. I just turn it off and walk away. And then other times I'll just sit here and laugh my can off because it's just nonsense. And all of a sudden we have newspaper reporters and media personnel of all types who are just supposed to tell you the facts. But now they're telling you how to live. They're telling you what you should eat. They're telling you what you should buy. They're telling you what you should watch. They're telling you who you should vote for. They're telling you about this country, that country, and they've probably never been out of the city they work in. And I think when that stuff kind of gets reined in, how they do it, I don't know, but eventually they might do it. When they rein in these stars of the media, look at this Charlie Rose guy. I mean, he was the darling of MSNBC. Everybody loved this guy. He was intelligent, smart. Everything he said was gold. He's gone. Turned out he was a scumbag. So,
scumbags,
I don't know, Dave.
Scumbags aside, what's your favorite paranormal fake news? Would it be that everything is a demon? Would it be the Hollywood? Would it be the Hollywood? Are you okay there? You drop your phone?
I think my wife took a shot at me. No, I dropped my phone.
Oh, careful. But what is your favorite paranormal fake news? Is it demons? Is it that Bigfoot are ripping people's heads off all over the place? Is it, aliens showing up and doing everything that Hollywood tells them they're going to do? What would be one of your favorites?
Oh, one of my favorites. I guess one of my favorites is, it's actually a show, and that was Hunting Bigfoot, where they were building cages and carrying weapons of all types and shooting into the water. And here's where people, if they really pay attention, I don't remember the name. It was Hunting Bigfoot, but they were chasing some kind of swamp monster. Okay, I don't know if that has to do with Bigfoot, but he went into this pond. Now these guys are standing there shooting into the pond. There's no splashes in the water. The pond is just as calm as can be. Then you have a one paranormal show, the plumber guys. I don't know the name of the show, but they're in this house, and you hear they're walking around the basement, and you hear this something rolling down the roof, and it kind of hits the gutter and rolls down the gutter and then rolls down the drain pipe. He says, "Big deal." They make a big deal out of this. What was that? What was that? And the guy says, "I don't know, but there it goes again." But it didn't go, and then it went. So he said it before the guy let the marble go or whatever he was leaving go up there. And that was the only time I ever watched that show. That's one of my favorites. Then there was another one where that was a paranormal show too, where they're walking up a set of steps, and the guy gets pulled backwards and falls down the steps. The only problem was the camera guy, or the guy had the wrong angle on the camera. And although it happened very fast, when you slowed it down, you could see somebody, not whether it was a cameraman or somebody with the cameraman, reach up and grab the guy by the back of his shirt and pull him backwards. And since he was wearing a watch, I would say it wasn't a ghost. I don't know, we'd be wearing a watch. There is so much fake stuff out there anymore that it's laughable. It burns you sometimes. It really gets you mad. But the people that do it, that really go out and do it, they know what's going on. All these museums that have popped up over time. Museum of the Paranormal, the Ouija board museum, the cryptid doll museum. I mean, these things are all over the place. The Mothman Museum. And look at, there's another thing, Mothman. Nobody can even say if it happened. I mean, there's no proof that it actually took place, but it's a big deal, and it brings a lot of money into that little town. And we've been at the Mothman Museum. I mean, it's a beautiful museum. I mean, he's got everything in there in the world. But it's just, I don't know. It's just, it boggles my mind. I get a headache because it just, the simple things like, okay, this is what you're saying. Now, show me the proof and the evidence, or shut up. Because I've heard the stories 1,000 times. I'm sure you've heard stories. I'm sure most of your folks on here have heard stories many, many times. They just change the location or the date, and it just goes on and on and on, and there's nothing to gain from it. a lot of times it sets back investigators. 50 years they're looking for Bigfoot. 50 years they find absolutely nothing to prove that this creature exists. Eyewitnesses, many. Footprints by the thousands. But the real evidence, a body or DNA, zero. I don't get it. That's the same thing with this bipedal that we've been chasing around. I'm not going to walk up and grab him. I'm not going to whack him on the head with a stick. I'm just hoping to get him on a FLIR device. Because you can't mess with a FLIR. If I got him on the FLIR device, whether it's a still picture or I got him on video, I got him. And that's all I got to do to prove it. I don't have to go chase him down and club him to death and skin him and bag him and tag him and all that other stuff. All I got to do is prove that he exists.
I got a couple questions coming from Twitter from Andrew here. And Andrew is saying, could the misinformation in the paranormal field be a means of obfuscation by someone to muddle the honest inquiry into deeper truth? And could this be a way to distract from something wonderful that could happen for humanity?
Absolutely. I'm sure the government does it every day. But, yeah, no, that's a good point. And that happens a lot. I'll give you for instance. I know a Bigfoot investigator, very good guy. As honest as the day is long. And he has this little research area, right? And he's been doing it for a long time in that little area. And he confided in another researcher that he thought was, okay. And next thing you know, that guy's up there with a team of like 10 people, blew everything apart. I mean, it's just shot the whole place. It's just nothing there anymore, no sign of any type. And so you have, there was a guy with good intentions doing good investigation work, and he confided in somebody, and then somebody decided that it was time for fame and fortune, and they just pretty much ruined it. So he moved on. Matter of fact, he got out of it altogether. And he was a good researcher. So sometimes I think, how many do we lose like that in any part of the paranormal? I don't care if it's ufology or cryptozoology or the paranormal. Good people do we lose? I mean, there's so much BS out there that, even I've been at conferences where I'd sit there and, just drop my head because I know the researcher, I know he's lying his ass off, but I can't say anything. And then I kind of look around, I can see people just getting up and walking out on him. And he's a very well-known researcher. So, I always looked at it this way, and somebody told me that when I first started speaking at conferences. If you see people walking out on you, change the subject. And all the places I've spoken at, Dave, nobody's ever walked out on me. I've had people walk up to the stage scared the shit out of me because, like, they're walking down the aisle, walking straight for the stage. I'm going like, uh-oh, is this a lynch party? And then they ask the question and they go back and sit down, But and one was by Robert Salas, who was the man in command of the nuke bases up in North Dakota when the UFO came over and shut them all down. And he just walked up to me in the middle of, when I was talking about human mutilations, and I stopped talking. I looked at him. He was only 10 feet away, and I said, Robert, is there something wrong? And he says, is this stuff real? I said, uh-huh. And he went like, oh, my God. And he turned around and walked back. So, I think you need to really pick who you involve yourself with. A lot of people in the very beginning I thought were really good, turned out to be really bad. And a lot of people I didn't go one way or the other with turned out to be some of the best. So it's kind of catchy. And I'll tell you what, some of the best questions I've ever gotten from people are from people that don't even investigate anything. They just have an idea or they have a question and they hit you with it and you're going like, whoa, why didn't I think of that?
I want to squeeze in one more of Andrew's questions here, because He's starting to fire away here. He'll get a hat trick here, but it's not going to be a natural hat trick because we're going to run up against a break, so he's got to wait to the third period. His second question is creating fake paranormal stories be a way of discrediting the field and taking hold of the narratives of real revelations? Is something coming that is unstoppable and amazing and could create a major paradigm shift, which could change everything on Earth?
Sure. The government's been doing it since back in the 30s, when the first Foo Fighters were seen. And they weren't documented until the 40s, but they were seen in the late 30s. And there's no reports on those, but they were photographed by pilots during World War II, both on the German side, our side, and the Japanese side, who all thought they were, secret weapons from the other side. And that stuff didn't come out until the late 50s, until the pilots and gunners and stuff on these planes started showing them. Yeah. I mean, he's got a good point there because, if you can not dazzle them with brilliance, but baffle them with bullshit, you're ahead of the game. And the government's been ahead of the game for a long, long time. And then you have to look at all the researchers that were really on top of things and had good information. They're all dead. I mean, there's a whole list of those on the internet. It goes under, if somebody would Google who's killing our researchers, I mean, the whole list is there. People that were perfectly healthy died of cancer in 2 weeks. And then the wife dies of some unknown cancer 3 days after the husband does. And they were two top-notch UFO researchers. You got people that were, actually got information out of Area 51 that were strangled during a robbery. But nobody took the Rolex watch or the $3,000 they had laying on the table. Or they were shot in the head twice, in the back of the head, and it was called a suicide. So, I mean, look, the government controls everything.
On that note, my friend, we are going to hop out for our final break of the night here on Space Out Radio. Butch Witkowski is with us. Strange Days happens the final Monday of every month. Butch's website is uforcop.com. That's UFORCOP.com if you want to check it out. We're going to stay in the fake news. We're going to get into any bipedal cryptids, ghosts, dogman, Mothman sightings, wherever it's going to go. We'll just let the conversation dictate it, and your questions, of course. We'll be right back after this.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedoutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
There's stories, then there's the truth. Do any of us really trust the news anymore? This is Jamie Sexton, owner of Rebel Planet News. The third Thursday of every month, I appear on SpacedoutRadio.com to bring you the truth you deserve, without mainstream media lies or alternative media fear-mongering. We'll get to the heart of the story and deliver the truth you are seeking. So come join us here for the Rebel Planet at SpacedoutRadio.com.
We are lighting the void on Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, this is Joe Roop, and I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to SpacedoutRadio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Come travel into the void with us on Spaced Out Saturdays.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on SpacedoutRadio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi there. I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with UFO Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at SpacedoutRadio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at SpacedoutRadio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, SpacedoutRadio.com, and tune in to us today.
There's a lot of strange going on in this world, and we can help you find out what's going on with you. Paranormal, cryptids, UFOs in the sky, aliens in your bedroom tickling your toes. We have the investigators you need to find out the answers you deserve. All you have to do is head to SpacedoutRadio.com. Your information is 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report. It's free, and we're here to help.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at SpacedoutRadio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, we talk about superheroes. Not Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Wonder Woman, or any of the Cape Crusaders. Real-life superheroes, and author Nadia Fazani is going to join us. And we're going to find out what this is all about, if there's actually people out there doing this. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at SpacedoutRadio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. Thank you so much for tuning us in. We are also live on KTLK, The Fringe.fm, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Creatophagia. Creatophagia is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at SpacedOutRadio. Use the hashtag SpacedOutRadio if you want to connect live with me during the show as well. You can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. We have a brand new YouTube channel called Spaced Out Radio. Go figure. It is no longer Spaced Out Radio Show. We're moving the archives over as we speak. So you got to unsubscribe to the old channel, subscribe up to the new channel. We would highly appreciate that. And we're on iHeartRadio in the United States, TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn, download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is SpacedOutRadio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Rock out to some Bumblefoot. Shop at the Spaced Out Radio store. You can also watch great videos from UFO seekers and Contact TV, and read up on your latest weird and strange news on the Encounter Online. Everything at SpacedOutRadio.com. Tonight, for the final time, we introduce Butch Witkowski from UFOrcop.com. That's UFORCOP, UFOrcop.com. We do this feature once a month, the final Monday of every month, that we call Strange Days around these parts. Butch, we're 2/3 of the way in, 1 hour to go. You still having some fun?
Yeah, can't believe it's the last hour.
I know. It always goes too fast with you. Now, we're giving Andrew the question hat trick here because he wants to ask this question. He says, Butch, in your estimation, what could be that wonderful change which might be coming, which could unite us all? What is something afraid of, or what is someone afraid of if they are confusing the truth?
I don't ever see that happening. It's just too... I mean, look, you got factions that have been fighting each other for thousands of years. And that hasn't stopped. Everybody seems to be trying to be one step ahead of the other one. I just don't see that ever happening. I really don't. I envision a couple of little things sitting up in a saucer somewhere, looking down and laughing their ass off and saying, yep, they're still at it. And then driving away because they don't even get involved in this melee. This world is so screwed up, and there's so many questions, so many things to find, so many questions to get answers to, that, you know, I'll never come to all the answers. Even my youngest researchers will probably never come to all the answers. But be nice if it would happen, but I just don't see that happening. I really don't. I don't think anything good's going to come out of it. You know, the little nitwit over in North Korea will probably push the button one day just for shits and giggles, and that'll start it. Of course, he's not going to be around long, but it's going to start it.
Well, on the flip side, though, how do you keep research moving forward if there's so many people who are trying to derail what people such as yourself are trying to find?
You ignore them. You just ignore them. Once you get involved in a melee with those folks, you won't win. You know, they'll take it from purely investigative standpoint to a personal standpoint, and next thing you know, they'll be threatening your dog. We just ignore them. Most of the guys I know that are involved, that are really looking, they ignore that stuff. They could care less what they say or what they do. They just keep doing their thing, and that's the way you got to be. We're very cautious about the information we share. It's shared between the group and really doesn't go outside the group, because if it did, you'd have somebody that would turn it all around and, make it like it was some kind of lie or a farce, or, you were doing it for some nefarious reason. So we just don't get involved with them.
Do you think that part of the big reason why the cryptid research and the paranormal research is in such a disarray with a lot of things that go on is because there is no true code of conduct?
Oh, no, there's never been. There's never been that.
I understand that, and just let me finish here for a second, because yes, there are independent investigators, and love or hate MUFON, at least there is a main body or association that is kind of leading the way on how things need to be done. Do you see what I'm saying with that? Yet when it comes to the ghost hunting or when it comes to cryptids, we don't have that.
Well, neither does MUFON, really. I mean, they're a name. They've been around since APRO folded back in the 60s, and they took over. Really, MUFON is nothing but a information gathering point for reports. They have some really good investigators. Some of my very best friends are still with MUFON, and they do their job, but they don't let MUFON rule their thinking. And then you have the other side, which is larger groups need money to function. There's a lot of expense involved in research, whether it's a little outfit like mine or an independent. I mean, you're still putting money out of your pocket. Well, when you have maybe 1,000 members, there's things that got to be done, conferences got to be held, and money needs to be spent, and insurance needs to be paid for. There has to be an office, and there's help in the office and stuff, and there's equipment, and all that stuff costs money. So a long time ago, MUFON put the money before the investigations, and it's still that way today. But I think what you said was about a code of conduct. There's never really in a code of conduct is kind of a joke, because you'll get a good group. Let's just say you have a 20-person group that's been together for 4 or 5 years, and they're really doing good work. And one guy decides that he don't like what the other guy's doing, so the stuff starts. Next thing you know, that group breaks up, and now out of that group of 20, you have 4 more groups that started, and they all hate each other. And the reasons these things go on between these groups is stupid. One of the biggest things is, well, we get more reports than you do, or my case is better than your case, or I got a better photograph than you got, or my conference had more people than your conference had. The stupidest stuff. The people that really make money in ufology and the paranormal and cryptozoology, the people that manufacture the hats, the jackets, and the T-shirts. They make a fortune, because a new group starts up every other day. And they can't wear the old T-shirts and hats and jackets, so they got to buy new hats and jackets and T-shirts. And it amazes me, like one group in particular now, I know of them since 2007. They've changed their name 9 times. It's the same group, 9 times. And they went from approximately 18, 19 members, and they're down to 3. So where are they going? Nowhere. Again, they're just beating a dead horse. And code of conduct. I mean, there was a really good researcher. And if anybody can find this book, I mean, I got it. It's called Stalking Darkness by Brian Schill. It's a very large book. I'm pretty sure you can still get it on Amazon. This guy was a researcher's researcher. College educated, smart guy, very well mannered, very well speaking, knew what he was doing, and he was getting results. Now, he was in the paranormal field, not ufology or cryptozoology, just paranormal. And he was one of these guys he called a spade. And when he had good stuff, he had good stuff. And a couple years ago, he just said, I have enough. It's it. I'm done. And he walked away from it. And it was because he said there is no credibility involved. There is no honesty involved. Everybody wants to be famous. Everybody wants to be on television. They don't do research like they should do. They do it like they see the guys on television do it. They spend fortunes on junk equipment, that doesn't work. They keep going to the same place. They keep coming up with these outrageous stories and investigations that he knows for a fact they never did. And he said, I have enough of it. And he walked away. And that was a sad day. I mean, when I got his final email that he sent out to a bunch of us, I really felt bad for him because he was probably the real deal. And his book is amazing. It's like a genuine textbook for a paranormal researcher. And I don't know what Brian's doing now. I guess he's probably teaching because he did have a college teaching certificate, so I imagine he's teaching somewhere. I don't even know if he's in Pennsylvania anymore. But he had a large group. He had like 70 people. And when they went out, they did their job. Everybody had their job to do, and they did it like clockwork. But when you talk about a code of conduct, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. And if you're serious with your investigations, don't fall under the umbrella of groups. Stay away from them. If you need more people, get your own. Pick your own people. Don't go into a group where you don't know anybody. They don't know you. You don't know them. And you're in there with welcome arms. You got to pay $10 a month, whatever, to be a member, or whatever they charge now. Some don't. Some do. But I don't ever see a code of conduct in any of this because nobody would adhere to it, ever, for any reason.
I think it would be a good thing.
And
let's face it, not every group is going to use it. And I think, you're never going to get 100% consistency. But the one thing I like about it is at least it gives something for people to look at. It gives something for people to absolutely, find some guidelines, especially if they're new in this field, because there are so many do's and don'ts that people aren't following, myself included, that it would be nice to have a Bible of it or something along those lines. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but look, you can get that same result by getting a hold of somebody that you know and trust, or you've known for a while. You've read their reports, so you've seen how they do their stuff. I mean, you'll get more out of that. But I think once you get a code of conduct, you're asking people to adhere to something that probably half of them are going to look at it and go like, I ain't doing that. And then the other half will go like, well, if you don't do it, you're out of here. And it starts all over again. The guy gets new hats and new T-shirts. But I always tell people when they ask how to get involved in this is I tell them flat out, look, keep an open mind, go to the local places, the local groups, sit in on their conferences or their meetings. Most of them don't charge for that. And see what you think. They're going to tell stories. They're going to tell research. They're going to tell this, and then go back home and research them. Research what they just told you about. If they talked about Roswell, look up Roswell. If they talked about Aztec, look up Aztec. If they talked about the Northeast Prison, look up the Northeast Prison. See what's going on. I always say, just be careful, because if you take everything they're saying as this is it, this is the absolute truth, well, you're a fool. Because you got to remember, they're talking in there to keep you sitting there They don't want you walking out. They want you to join the group, or or pass the word around that they're good guys. I deal with really only one paranormal group. They were incorporated in 1979. It's a family, and it's the same people that started in 1979, and it's now 2017, and they're still at it. And they do very good work. I've been on a couple cases with them. They invited me along to be, kind of a gopher and looker, and just to see how they do things, and I was very impressed. Now, if I was going to join a paranormal group and I was not involved in what I am, I would join that group in a heartbeat, and I wouldn't even think twice about it. But it's tough out there. It really is, because it just seems like everybody has an end that they need to get to, and whether it's good or bad, whether it's they're looking for the truth or they want to be on TV, one of the two. I mean, it's just, there's no in between with some of these folks, and it's a little disheartening, because there are a ton of really good investigators out there, and there's a ton of them in MUFON. And although with the last melee in MUFON they lost a great deal, they lost many state directors. They try to say, oh, we only lost one or two. Well, they lost a couple dozen. And some of those folks that left there were there since 1969. That's a real hurt. When you're losing somebody that has that many years experience, and they walk out the door because of some other idiot, that's bad. And then when you lose more than just one, and you start to lose a dozen or more, that's even worse, because all that good information that those people had that they could pass on to the new people just walked out the door, and it ain't coming back. And the best thing people can do is, before you jump into something, look, read, study. I have a lot of people that I don't say I tutor them. I'm not a tutor, but they're on their own, and they'll get to something where they don't understand how to do it, or they never heard of it, or they want to know what they should do, or some kind of equipment they want to buy, and and I have no problem giving that information away. Call me on the phone, tell me what you need, and we'll talk about it, and I'll give you the good points and the bad points. But there aren't too many people out there to do that anymore, because they got burned too many times. And thankfully, knock on wood, I've not been burned once. So kind of a little something I'm proud of anyway, that I've been given good information. But it's just like, and then you're going to deal with other people that you've never dealt with. I mean, I never dealt with remote viewers, ever. I didn't even know what a remote viewer was, basically. And on one case that we're involved in, we got a group of remote viewers that are actually in Australia. And they told us what they wanted, what they needed, and we gave them the information, which was nothing, pretty much nothing. They didn't ask for much. And we sent that to them, and they sent their thing back after a few weeks, and they were right on the money, and they led us in the right direction. So there's a lot of people out there that have techniques, and they have knowledge that, a normal investigator would never get to. But if you, stay on the straight and narrow as an investigator and don't get involved in the drama, and trust me, drama is top of the line. There's so much drama that it's ridiculous. And stay away from the drama and just do your job and do what you want. Look for what you want to find. I mean, people always joke about, well, how far will you go? Well, let's put it this way. If Dave Scott found the body of a Bigfoot, I would tell him to conceal it till I get there. But I will be there.
I'm not letting anybody know when that happens.
That's right.
Not letting a soul know. Because that'll be the one time the government listens into our phone conversations. You realize that?
Mm-hmm. But if you invite me up for a barbecue...
We're going to have to come up with a code word.
Yeah, absolutely. We will.
Barbecue at Dave Scott's house. That is the code word.
We're going to have 90 people showing up.
Exactly. I got a question coming from the SOR Space Travelers group from Robin, who is asking, extraterrestrials have been in the news lately. Do you think NASA is trying to bring fear like War of the Worlds to the public?
Oh, yeah. They've been trying to do that for years. I particularly like the, somebody will put a picture on either Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest, and it'll be some humanoid-looking thing standing in the corner on the moon, and people go nuts. Okay, we got men on the moon, and then what a lot of people forget that you can track any photograph with Google Photo, and I probably, like many others, Googled that, and, we found that photograph. It was actually a photograph of a guy out in Colorado standing amongst the rocks, guy on vacation, and the picture was taken by his wife. It told us what kind of camera was used, what date it was taken on, this, that, the other thing. So all they did was take something, they superimposed it on a moon picture. So, look, NASA and that group and the government themselves, their job is disinformation. That's their job. I mean, when when they closed Project Blue Book and that general got up there and said, well, that we found absolutely no proof of anything unknown that would actually hurt us or, attack us or anything like that. And then you look at Project Blue Book, and Project Blue Book, I forget how many cases, they looked at 11,000 cases or something like that. And then in the very last paragraph, there's 1,200 cases that are unknown. Well, what the hell are they? And they don't make any bones about it. It's in there. 1,200 cases unknown. The rest of them were all identified, but there's 1,200 that weren't. Well, why aren't we talking about those 1,200? Why are we just saying there's nothing up there that's going to hurt us? What about those 1,200? It's amazing the different disinformation and misinformation that's put out, and it's not only put out by the government, it's put out by large investigative groups, Bigfoot people, paranormal people, individuals, small groups. Everybody puts it out. And it's either they think they're diverting you from the track you're on, and you'll get tired of it and you'll just give it up, or it's just put out there to keep everybody on their toes looking for something that don't even exist. Like a prime example would be the Dulce base, where you have 10 or 12 levels where they're making experiments on humans and they're creating hybrids and all this other stuff. And it's a friggin' solid granite mountain, and it would have taken years to construct, and there's no photographs of any construction, nor has anybody that lives there ever seen any construction.
Butch, when it comes to, the idea that there are so many people and so many fake sites out there, when people ask you these days, what is real, what is fake, how do we even know anymore? What is your response?
Oh, there's ways of finding it out. Char Naughton just put up a thing. She said, "Bitch, have you run across?" I think it's Butch. Have you run across any download programs to make pics on your phone look haunted? Yeah, there's a very famous one, and it's put out by Apple. You can buy it for $5.99. It's called Ghost App. You can take a picture of your great-great-grandfather, and you can have him running a triathlon. That quick. So there are things out there, and they're put out there for a reason. They're put out there to confuse. So if you have, if you want to, just say somebody really has a good paranormal picture, well, then they will, somebody will take that Ghost app on their iPhone or their laptop or their iPad, and they'll just do whatever they want in the same location with a different person or a different entity, and they've now muddled up the first shot. And then somebody else will pick up on that, and before you know it, you got 5 or 6 different shots of different people in the same location.
So when it comes to people who are asking you, because this is the big story these days, is all this fake news stuff, how are you telling people to tell or to derive what is real and what is fake? Because, let's face it, people don't want to believe, or it's the popular thing right now, to not believe anything that is mainstream media.
They need to get whatever information they have, whether it's a photograph or a report or just some general information on something that happened, get it to a researcher that they can trust. Somebody that they may have talked to or met at a conference or, heard them speak at a library or something, and they have a little degree of confidence in what they're saying and how they're saying it. And people can tell. People can tell when you want to help them. There's not a week or a day that goes by, I don't think, anymore, where I don't get an email or something on Facebook or something, a message for somebody looking for help or looking for an information or a way to go next. And I have no problem doing that, none whatsoever. I know guys that will defriend you for doing that. They don't want to get involved because they don't know who you are. Well, if you treat everybody like they're the CIA, you're never going to get anywhere. You got to put trust out there somewhere. And there are a lot of researchers. Just say it's the researchers that's involved in a psychic medium. But there's something happening that they don't understand, but they kind of think it's ufology-wise. And they don't, I'll get an email or be a phone call or whatever, and I'll give them a direction to follow. But I get the same thing when I have an issue. I mean, I had a thing where I thought I was involved or wanted to be involved with a psychic and a medium, and after looking at some of their work, I thought, no, I'll give them a shot, and they did help out a great deal. Matter of fact, they're a member in one of our teams right now. So it's so hard to get out there, but it's a matter of trust in the person you're dealing with, and are they willing to tell you that you're wrong, or that's what you got is nothing. And a lot of guys won't do that. They just will not do it. Somebody could have the most rotten piece of evidence you ever came across, and you could show them 100 ways from Christmas why it's wrong, and gets done, and then next thing you know, you're the idiot.
Robin is asking in the SOR Space Travelers, have you ever done any reports on the alleged Goat Man?
No, Goat Man is predominantly in Ohio, northern and central Ohio. I've seen some of the debunked pictures, is about all I saw. There is one researcher out there that is pretty decent, and he's been looking at it. He hasn't come up with anything. But there's a lot of stories about the Goat Man. There's a lot of stories about a lot of things. You have one of these, especially down south, because when you're talking about Bigfoot out in, say, California, Northern California, and Oregon, Washington, there's a certain way they look. When you look at something from the east, like in Pennsylvania or Virginia, they look different. One's taller, one's shorter, one's more stocky, one's thinner. Then you go down south and they seem to get smaller and more ape-like. So are these people seeing the same thing and just describing it wrong, or are they seeing different breeds of this creature? That's a real honest look at something. And but you look at a picture of a swamp ape and look at a picture of a Northern California Bigfoot, two totally different creatures. One's more ape-like, and the other one is more man-like, I guess.
Do you have to decipher when you get in these strange creatures like Goatman or Frogman, all the weird stuff that happens in Ohio, it always seems to be Ohio for some reason. Do you put a lot of stock into what we see with a lot of these creatures? Does that?
No.
So where is this just figments of imagination, Butch? I mean, you take Frogman of Ohio, the first reports were brought together by police officers.
No, police officers can tell stories too. I mean, they're driving around Ohio. There's nothing in Ohio. So you're driving around Ohio and nothing to do. Hey, let's make up a story about we saw Frogman, or we saw Goatman, or we saw this, we saw that. And that's what happens. That's how it starts. A lot of the creatures, like thunderbirds, plesiosaurs, pterodactyls, there's even stories of miniature velociraptors, miniature Tyrannosaurus rexes running around in the middle of the Four Corner states, like, down there in Colorado and New Mexico and stuff. Come on. A miniature Rex running around in New Mexico? That was actually came off of a reservation. And the guy was stone-ass drunk. But the story caught, and you got people actually out there looking for a miniature Tyrannosaurus Rex. Good luck.
No, and I understand that for the most of us, it's easy to forget. It's easy to say this isn't happening, or this is something that we are not going to be a part of. But where do you draw the line as an investigator?
I think there's always something happens, a statement or a piece of evidence that you just go, enough. And but that works the other way too. I mean, sometimes you get a statement or a piece of evidence, you go like, whoa, back up the bus. Let's talk about this, or let me see that, And this whole genre is very tough. It's hard. It's hard because you're trying to stay focused on what you're looking for. And there's so much static and white noise out there that sometimes, you're looking at something, you're going like, man, what am I looking at? Why am I doing this? What's the story? I'm not onto this. What's going on? And you kind of get lost in your own thoughts. And it's only because of that background noise, white noise, whatever you want to call it, coming in from the government or from other researchers or some movie that came out or some, Jesus, when that movie came out, Fourth Kind, like I said, abductions shot through the roof. And I'm not talking about 50 or 60. I'm talking about hundreds of abductions came through. And then when they came out afterwards and said, well, this was only a movie, it's not a true story, all those abduction stories went away. And it's the same thing with Bigfoot. Somebody sees something big and hairy run through the woods. Okay? It's Bigfoot. Now, the person that just saw that lives in Manhattan, New York. Probably never even got to the zoo. But he's out in the woods, taking a hike with some relatives, and the first thing that comes across his mind is Bigfoot. Now, he doesn't believe what everybody's saying, that it was just a deer or, it was a bear or anything else. To him, it's Bigfoot, and you're not going to change his mind. And that noise, it sometimes, I'll sit here at my desk and I'll go like, what the hell am I doing this for? I'm just giving myself a big headache. But then something comes along and I just forget about that and I go right along with what I was doing anyway. I like a glutton for punishment.
Are there stories or investigations that you will not cover because they're just way too ridiculous?
Yeah, Frogman would be one of them. Goatman would be another. The Beast of Bray Road would be another. The Dogman theory. Here's my problem with Dogman. Every Dogman report you read is different in shape, color, size, tail, quadruped, bipedal, looks like a German Shepherd. Some people say it looks like a bulldog. There's just everything. Every report is different. Unlike this bipedal that we're looking for, where every report is identical. I mean, they're exactly the same. These people don't know each other. They don't even live in the same county. I mean, they live hundreds of miles apart in some cases. And they're describing the exact same thing. And although we put a lot out on the bipedal, we never put out certain things on the bipedal that we've never put out. It's not there. Even in the drawing we put out, there was something that has been removed, but it has been seen by witnesses. Now, there's no way they would know that it was there or not there because I never put it out there. So when they're all telling me this, and we don't go yay or nay, we just look at each other and like, okay, so he saw exactly what he saw, and she saw exactly what he saw. And, people say, well, is it carnivorous? Is it a carnivore? Well, yeah, we have 2 reports where it's seen feeding on a carcass. Okay, so that's a carnivore. But you throw in that, could it be a shapeshifter? Well, if it's a shapeshifter, it's still a carnivore, whether it's in man form or wolf form. It's still a carnivore. Now, if we never had any reports of it feeding on anything, then it would be, a manifestation of something. Another thing that's coming up recently, very recent, is that people have been seeing, when they're seeing Bigfoot, bright flashes of light in the woods. So now it's what's all that about. So now how do we capture that? And then there's bright flashes of light in the woods where there are no sightings of a Bigfoot. So what's with the bright flashes of light? And it just seems like things are found by accident. The people that see it are either researchers or they're not. But they're hunters or they're woodsmen or, they're lumberjacks. I mean, they're people that know what they're doing in the woods. And I don't know. I don't know what's out there. All I know is I had this feeling from the first report that I was dealing with something that's been out there for a very long time. It's a relic. It's not leaving. It's been there. It's always going to be there. And all I got to do now is prove that it's there.
We have a question coming in from the Spreaker chat room for you from BTO, who is asking, Butch, have you ever investigated cases of legendary type cryptids like leprechauns, trolls, and even gnomes?
No, but one of my, I haven't personally, but one of my folks, or my colleague, Lon Strickler has. And, I mean, they've even gotten some pictures that are very hard to, I tried to take them apart and I couldn't. And I don't know what they are. And the one was taken in Ireland. And it's a lady taking the last picture before she gets on, gets back to her motel to get on a plane to come home. And she takes this picture, and she doesn't look at them until she gets home. She lives in upstate New York. And she gets there, and she's, going through the pictures. And there's this little being, which looks human, in the photograph, near a rock, which would have been to her left. And the last picture was taken by her partner, who was with her, behind her, and it's just a picture of her standing at an old Irish ruins, an old home, old stone home, and a very nice sunset type deal, and this thing is in the picture. And I said to Lon, I've tried everything I have, and it's there. Whatever it is, it's there. And it just looks like a small human. And when I say small, I mean in scale. When I scaled it, it wasn't but 2.5 feet tall. But it was human looking. Arms, legs, had a hat on, jacket, pants. So, the hell was I looking at? So if that was a leprechaun, well, then that's what it is. But Lon's more into that than I am. I don't have the background or the knowledge of a lot of that stuff other than what I've heard. But that one caught my attention.
When it comes to these legends like leprechauns or trolls, do they have a little bit more respect, if we can use that word, Butch, because they've been around for centuries and from the old country?
Exactly. Why? Look at werewolf. Look at a werewolf. Werewolves have been around since Roman times. Lycanthropy has been around since pretty much the dawn of man. There's cave drawings with the body of a man with the lower torso of a horse or a stag. So shape-shifting, or that was in primitive times. So is there something to it? I don't know. I just over the last 6 months I've amassed some books that go back way back, 1868, 1933, that were written on stuff like this, and they're not fiction. They're more textbooks on the old reports, the trials that were held in France in the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th centuries during the Inquisition. France burned 30,000 people at the stake in 1 year for being werewolves. A little excessive, but they burned 30,000. And you have the churches, the Protestant church was involved in it, and the Catholic churches were involved in it, where, they were sending people in to kill people, and just to get the church in there to protect them. Then the church would send in their soldiers and actually kill the guy that did the killing, and everything stopped, and then next thing you know, the church saved us, and the werewolf is gone. And then, these stories go back, way back. Before the indigenous started talking about shapeshifters. Shapeshifters go back to, I guess the earliest documented, where it's actually written down, was the Romans, where they believed that there was actually a group of people that were half man and half wolf in various forms.
So you give more credence to that rather than these all of a sudden appearing creatures that are on North American soil, which is considered kind of a newer soil, right?
Oh, Grasshopper Man. Come on. Grasshopper Man. What's another one that just popped up not too awful long ago? He's supposed to look like the creature of the Black Lagoon, but he doesn't like water. I don't know what that means. Now, he's seen in around Georgia. And when they got the guy that made the actual footprints, he spilled the beans about it was a hoax. And people can make up anything. But there's a lot of stories, there's a lot of lore, but, there's a lot of books that were written way back. These books cost a fortune, but I'm so glad that I got them, that I found them. And, they gave me a wealth of information, how they lived, or how, now these are written stories from, stories, so it's just somebody, took the time to write this all stuff down, but what people believed back then and how they acted and what they would do, and believe it or not, there were good werewolves and there were bad werewolves. A good werewolf, which may have been snooping around a farm and, stole a cow or something every now and then, but nobody ever came after him. So he would protect the farm from bad werewolves or vampires or whatever was in the area. And, werewolves, vampires, they go hand in hand. They're both creatures of the night that are very destructive. And every time I read these books, and they're fascinating. They capture your mind, and you're thinking like you're back in that 14th, 15th, 16th century and what it was like. But I can't find any recent, or how should I put this? I can't find any attacks where anybody was attacked or killed. We do have one case up in Tuscarora Pennsylvania, where a individual was approached by one while he was in a tree stand, and it was actually growling at him. It was only 100 feet away. And then it just wandered off after a deer. But that was the only aggression we've ever seen or heard of. So...
But a lot of people out there, Butch, would say that maybe these creatures are existing because of projects that we've heard from around Montauk, around Dulce, around Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is in your neck of the woods by just a couple hundred miles. You know, so there's a lot of people out there who say, look, American scientists and the military have been playing with, you know, mixing humans and creatures for a long time. So why couldn't any of these creatures exist?
Oh, yeah, that's true. And you know, the Germans tried it in World War II, you know, to make super soldiers. And this could have been something that was done back then and went awry. You know, 1 or 2 or 3 got away, or, you know, and they bred and then you got more. And now we've kind of narrowed it down to, we have one because of the area that it's seen in. And when we do the mapping where, you know, we have one, say, in this county, and then, say, a week later we have one in another county, and then we do that, the distance and, you know, a walking, how big of a step would that type of a creature take? Of course, it's going to be more than a man. And, you know, we tried different styles of doing that, and, you know, we came up with, yeah, it's possible it could be one walking to there, and it would take him about 5 to 6 days to get from that point to that point. But could it be more than one? Absolutely. I mean, we've never had, the thing that kind of dampens on that a little bit is we've never had 2 reports simultaneously far apart. In other words, they're always a week or 2 or 3 or a month and a half or 2 months apart. They stay within the loop. They do not, that's the part that's puzzling to all of us. We have no reports outside of that loop. We just don't. There is none. We found a lot of historical reports outside that loop. We found historical newspaper clipping of a description of one of these creatures that is exactly what we have from 1865 from Erie, Pennsylvania, which is way out of the loop. So have these things been here a long time? Yeah. Are there lots of places for them to hide in these areas? Oh, absolutely. There's caves, there's old mines, there's old buildings, there's old towns. I mean, there's just places that we could never cover it all. If I had 500 researchers walking around and driving around, we couldn't even begin to scratch the surface on where they could hide. So the best thing to do is we go to where we had the sightings and we stay there and hope that they come back. And we've had our issues with stuff that happened while we were there that shouldn't have and did. So we'll continue on that, and that's really all I can do. And like I said, I can't capture it. I'm sure not hell gonna shoot it. But if I can get it on a FLIR, one of our FLIRs, video or still pictures, I have the proof that something is out there that is that size, that temperature, warm-blooded or cold-blooded, and this is what it looks like. And then that's as far as I'm going to go. What else would I do?
Let's get to another... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Butch.
Okay. I was just going to say that people always say, well, what are you going to do if it charges you? And I'm thinking to myself, what would I do? I'd probably yell, sit.
Mm-hmm. A couple questions from our audience, because we're only down to about 4.5 minutes here. It's flown by. Do you believe, then, as Gloria is asking, if the Rougarou is fake or not?
No, I think the Rougarou is the same type of creature. Rougarou was the werewolf in France. When the French came into down into the Mississippi Delta area and settled in there, the Rougarou came along. There have been many sightings of Rougarou down there. And the Rougarou was actually the French name for werewolf. And they're documented in the 16th century, 17th century, big time. So are people seeing the Rougarou or some form of the Rougarou in that area, yeah, those stories down there go way, way back. And in France, they go back even further.
Joe is asking, do you then believe in legends and lore creatures like vampires or Dracula?
Well, I mean, you have vampires today. I mean, there's a lot of people out there killing people and drinking blood. And some people are just drinking blood. They're not killing anybody. I think the only problem with the vampires are there is not much written historically about vampires. Of course, you have the most famous one, which is Vlad the Impaler. And that lady, the princess or whatever the hell she was, queen, that bathed in the blood of virgins. Those are the only real two that's documented. I mean, Bela Lugosi type of Dracula was never documented in the old texts. Bob Davis, carry a tennis ball with you, toss it, and see if he chases it. Good thinking, Bob. I might do that.
I've always said that too. Always keep a pack of tennis balls with you, my friend. Always keep a pack of tennis balls. That's very, very important when it comes to this.
Yeah.
Only a couple of questions left, or a couple minutes left, pardon me. How has 2017 been for a lot of the investigation side? Has it been a good year? Has it been an off year? What do you think?
Oh, it's been a good year. It's been a good year. We've come up with a lot of information. We got to go to a lot of different places, got to talk to a lot of different people. We've got to talk to people that we couldn't talk to before for some reason, which like the Game Commission or park rangers or federal officers. Yeah, it's been a good year for that. Mapping software that we've gotten now is really good. It's better than what we had before. Some of the equipment upgrades we did is much better than we had before. Cameras are better. Stuff is waterproof now. We don't have to worry about, putting everything under a shelter. We can let it sit out in the rain, snow. It doesn't matter. And it's been a very good year for investigations. I'm hoping 18 is the same way.
Are you noticing any patterns from year to year?
The only pattern that in the bipedals, the pattern that we have noticed is we'll have the sightings will fluctuate. We'll have like early summer, and then it'll die down, and then we'll have like late summer, and then they'll die down, and then it'll be like quiet for like October, November, and then like late November, then it'll start to pick up again. So I don't know if they're on the move, if they're territorial, or they're moving back and forth between where they may have a place to stay. But it really sucks right now because our weather's been so warm. We've had very little cold weather. So that dense forest that's up there, the leaves aren't dropping at all, hardly at all. They're just turning now. And for us to get into some of those areas and really, put forth with the equipment that we have, we need to have clear vision. Those cameras got to be able to see a good. And until those, like we were going to leave 2 weeks ago, then we put it off because up there, our people up there said, nope, still got a lot of leaves up, a lot of brush on the ground, and we need that stuff to be really gone. And so we were going to try it again this week, the same thing, but a little better. So we're figuring in the next 2 weeks we'll be able to get out again before Christmas and after Christmas. I mean, we're all geared up, we're ready to go. It's just a matter of, we don't care if it's snowing, that doesn't bother us. We have shelter and we have all that stuff. So that's not anything that holds us back. But what we're looking for now is that the leaves to drop and that brush to die off, because the brush is like waist high. And hell, I could be laying there naked, nobody'd ever see me. Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Ugh. I don't know if I want to think of that, my friend. Don't know if I want to think of that.
That just turned me a little myself.
Butch, to you and your family, you have a great Christmas and New Year's, my friend. We will talk to you. Now, the next Monday, the final Monday of the month of December, is actually Christmas Day, so we're actually moving you to Tuesday the 26th.
Correct.
And I want to say thanks for being a big part of our family here for 2017, Butch. Really appreciate it.
And to all your folks out there, all your researchers, all your people that are on your chat all the time, and SOR, have a good holiday. Enjoy yourself. Be careful out there. And if, again, as I say all the time, if anybody needs anything, just go on my website or contact me on Facebook. And on the website, just go to Terrestrial Contact. That's an email direct to me. That's Watch 24/7. And I'll help you out any way I can.
Awesome.
And, no problem there.
Butch, you hold on. I'm going to wrap this thing up. Butch Witkowski's Strange Days. One more appearance, December 26th. UFOcop.com is the website. Tomorrow night on the program, Nadia Fazani joins us. We're talking real-life superheroes. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at SpacedoutRadio.com. I want to say thanks to our music man, Bumblefoot, for rocking us out of every single show. I will talk to you tomorrow, my friends. Let's continue the fun times with all of you in the chat rooms and sitting at home, because together, my friends, we own the night. Talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, take us home.